was very proud of me, but that did not lead him to make a new commitment to go and sing hymns in church every Sunday. He was just not an institutional person. But he had, I think, a desire to think about and to know God through his reading.
Right.
He would have loved this book. I think he would have been fascinated by her take on this. So she does spend some time with family, with roots. She has a section called Roots, and she talks about the genealogy, not fad, not craze, but interest today in finding your roots.
And really, people are trying to find who they are through going and doing a massive amount of genealogical research. My wife's mother has gone through extensively through both her side as well as my father-in-law's side to try to get back. Shelley has found that her genealogy goes all the way back to the Mayflower, and even beyond that, the Puritans that were there, and so there's this it shows the roots of human participation within the world and how that kind of influences who we are today. Yeah. Though some of the stories that come up, when she was doing the genealogical research, she found out that one of her relatives, ancient relatives, fell off of the Mayflower, they had to rescue him. And without that rescue, what was also interesting is that you also see the turning points. Like in one side of her family, there's the Shakers come out, and if the young person hadn't left the Shaker movement, the rest of the line would have been done. Sure. But because that person left, my wife becomes who she is. Yeah. And so you hear the story and you participate in the story. It's finding your story.
Well, sure. And my wife has done a lot of genealogical research. And my grandmother was a Hubble, so I read about the Hubble telescope and so on. I thought that's my family. And we go back. It's been fascinating stories on all sides. But as Diana Butler Bass points out, when you go back generation after generation after generation, you discover that you've got maybe 200 great. They've had all these. There's a web.
Right.
The web. What does she call it? The web of. I wrote it down. The web of belonging.
Belonging.
The web of belonging. Now, let's go back to the book and how does this web of belonging tie into neighborhoods and commons and what we have in common as we seek to know God?
Well, there's a popular movement that was going out about 10 years ago. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It was 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yes, right.
So everyone, you could take any actor and go 6 degrees from that and end up at Kevin Bacon.
Sure.
Well, as genealogical research goes on.
I'm 2 degrees from Kevin Bacon, by the way.
Oh, all right. Yeah. I'm glad to know that because it actually just broken the mold.
I interviewed Kenny Loggins. He knows Kevin Bacon. There you go.
There you go. It works just fine. So from her perspective, and it can be verified through genealogical research. The further you go back, the more common ancestry we all have.
Yeah.
So there's a sense in which we all belong to each other. The idea that I exist in isolation from the rest of humanity is not very scientific, and it can't be proven through research. Yeah. Actually, I find more commonalities, especially if you were to look even at genetics or biological things. There are more commonalities between human beings. Like they can't even find that racial difference genetically, that we have created in many cases.
Yeah.
That racial distinction is not even found. So for Diana Butler Bass, the interconnectedness of humanity kind of leads itself toward a deeper and more theological understanding of family, of neighborhoods, of the commons. Like the idea is in a neighborhood, there's a spiritual DNA that exists within the neighborhood itself. Yeah. And so we We participate in that DNA every day when we interact with our neighbors or when we come home from work. The rituals that we keep within the garbage pickup and the cleanliness of our yards and the way that we take care of our home is all part of that neighborhood kind of taking care of itself. And so she brings up an experience that she had of where in her neighborhood when she was writing the book, there was a girl who had gone missing, and the whole neighborhood came together. They put ribbons on their light posts, and they were praying and they were seeking and they were trying to help the family. And there was like this huge communitas that kind of came together around that person. And when they found the girl had died, somebody had killed her, they all grieved the passing, and they took those ribbons and they made a wreath out of it, and it became part of their own healing as a result of experiencing
no matter
the
their
death.
race, no matter their creed,
Exactly.
no matter. All the barriers broke down and they were one.
Right.
Now, in Christian theology, when we talk about the body of Christ, we're talking about all of us, no matter what labels, denominational labels we have. We are part of one body.
Right.
And the time to move into we have 3.5 minutes to talk about the incarnation, and where does she go toward the end of the book?
She really doesn't go into the incarnation at all in the book, which is what
seems to be the next step.
What bothers me a little bit, because for me, when I think about God with us, I think of Jesus, Emmanuel. I see God with us in a particular way, and from my perspective, human communities can do great things when they're given to it, but they can do terrible things too. Genocides come out of human communities. Greed and destruction comes out of human communities too. And it doesn't come necessarily out of an understanding of God who is destructive, or a God who is genocidal. It comes out of human hubris.
Yeah.
And for me, that hubrisness is something that I need to qualify, and I need to have someone point it out to me when I'm acting hubristically or pridefully, or be able to bring me down back to earth.
To remember the humility that we also have in common.
Right, and that for me is the bigger push. Where I need the incarnation, because the incarnation comes to me. It shows to me that God is in human communities, that God is on the earth, walked the earth as a human being, skinned God's knees, that God suffered, God died. There's sweat, there's blood in it. And for me, that would then push me to be a better person, or to want to be more grounded, because God came to earth, and God and if you're asking me, well, what is the particularness that Christianity can offer to the world religions, I would say it's the incarnation. The incarnation is that God is in and with us, and I didn't see that in the book, but I would push her on that. I think that you can find God in the flesh.
Yeah. So once again, the book is called Grounded, Finding God in the World, a Spiritual Revolution. And it's been part of the depth of this conversation, and we've only, of course, touched on it.
You can't do a 300-page book justice in 26 minutes.
But it's important enough that we wanted to talk about it today on the Encounter program. So we've encountered a book through the reading eyes of Joe Sellepack, the director or the executive director of the Broome County Council of Churches. And thank you for leading me to the book. I didn't get all the way through it, but I will. I'll finish it. And I thank you for joining us for this conversation and encourage you to be with us again next week on Encounter. I'm Jeff Kellam, and I hope that in the coming week you will be gentle with people and with yourself.